Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. And so let's start there. Let's start in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where for the final time in his illustrious, never-ending career where his hair has not changed colors at all, yeah, I'm talking about Coach K. Don't know if you heard, it was his final trip to Chapel Hill on Saturday. Duke enters the Dean Dome, the place where Michael Jordan played, the place where Jerry Stackhouse played, the place where Rasheed Wallace played. Entered as a ho-hum three-point favorite. Let's see where this game goes. Oh, it was a beatdown of epic proportions. Duke is up as much as 19-5 just 4 minutes into the game. They're up 31-8 at the under 10-minute mark, and it turns into a rout really quick as Duke, in Coach K's final visit to the Dean Dome, they win 87-67. And what I would say about this game is this. Listen, I could do 5, 7, 10 minutes on Duke, how awesome they are, how good they look, how A.J. Griffin is emerging, how I think Mark Williams is the X factor down low because there just aren't that many teams that have guys that are 7'1" that can do the things that he does. But you guys and girls already know that. And as I often say, usually when it comes to a big game like this, oftentimes the more interesting story is in the losing locker room. So I could go ahead and do 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 minutes on Duke. I could talk about Coach K, Paulo Banchero, A.J. Griffin, whatever. But to me, the much more interesting storyline is at North Carolina. I talked about Hubert Davis a few weeks ago. I still think they made a mistake not doing a national search, but we're going to put that aside for right now. Because during the game, Jay Bilas said something very interesting that I actually fundamentally disagree with. Jay Bilas said, yeah, North Carolina's struggling. And he did this in his Jay Bilas voice where he's preaching down to us, peons from above. Well, North Carolina's struggling, but they're obviously an NCAA tournament team. And I respect Jay Bilas. I think he's really good at his job. But at the same time, let me ask you this. Are you really sure about that, Jay Bilas? Know you work for ESPN. Know you got to promote the single biggest game on your college basketball calendar every year, twice a year. But are we sure North Carolina is an NCAA tournament team? Because I'm not sure that they are. And so let's get into it. Let's break it down. And I'm going to get into the resume and all that stuff in a minute. But let's just start with North Carolina because they are a very, very, very weird team this year. They are 16-7 overall. And again, we're going to get into that resume, tournament, non-tournament in a minute. But they're 16-7 overall. And they are 16-7 in a very bad ACC. And if you've watched them at all this year, something just doesn't seem right with North Carolina. Have you paid attention at all to the Tar Heels? There's just something that is really off about them and really weird. And I have heard from multiple people. I actually heard Jeff Goodman say this as well on his show, one of his shows that he does with the Field of 68, and I have heard much the same, is that they have a lot of guys in that program, in that locker room right now that care about the name on the back of the jersey much more than the front of the jersey. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but what I can tell you is a couple things. One, I've heard it from enough people where I'm kind of sort of ready to believe it. And then two, what I would also say beyond that is this. They sure do play like a bunch of kids that don't really care about anybody but themselves. They sure do play like a bunch of kids that are only worried about how do I get from where I am now to the next level. They sure don't seem to have very much fight in them, toughness in them, whatever. And where I think it shows especially is on the defensive end. And I've watched North Carolina a bunch of times this year, and I try to figure it out. It's one of those deals, right, where sometimes you see something during games, and you sit there and say, okay, is that really happening the way that I think it's happening, or am I imagining it, whatever? So I decided to look it up, because I remember about 3 weeks ago, I watched North Carolina play Wake Forest on a Saturday night, and Wake Forest absolutely ran them out of the gym. And I was watching the game, and I said, "This is like the worst defense that I've seen." It was like a matador with a cape, like pulling the cape. Another layup for Wake Forest, another layup for Wake Forest, another layup for Wake Forest. Which, by the way, Wake Forest is an awesome story. I should add, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. And so I bring it up because I'm watching this game, And I said, this is the worst defense I've ever seen. And then I watched it again. I watched North Carolina again against Duke on Saturday, and I said, this is the worst defense I've ever seen. The game itself, I mean, the stats speak. The stats tell you everything you need to know. Duke shot 58% from the field, 48% from three. And so I said, is this just Carolina in big games or what? So I decided to look it up. No, they are one of the worst teams defensively in college basketball, especially relative to Power 5, Power 6, power programs that should be better than they are. Went ahead and looked it up. They currently rank, as I record here, 270th nationally in points per game allowed. Just one spot behind LaSalle and one spot ahead of Grambling. So shout out to North Carolina because they've made a couple more defensive stops than Grambling. But I know what some of you would say. You would say, well, come on. They play fast, tempo, we know how this goes. Just because you give up a lot of points doesn't mean you play bad defense. So for fun, I decided to look up, how's their field goal percentage defense? Are they getting after it? Are they at least contesting shots, making things tough? They rank 220th nationally in defensive field goal percentage, and I think that speaks to why they have been so bad. And for those of you who would sit back and say, a Carolina fan that would say, well, it's a first year and Hubert Davis and he's doing this and he's doing that. Here's another fun fact for you. I went ahead and looked up field goal percentage defense, okay? I looked up that stat. You can find it online. A little place called the internet. Check it out. And on the internet, on the website that I looked at, NCAA.com, something struck me. You know who's number 2 in college basketball in field goal percentage defense right now? It's the Arizona Wildcats. Not sure if you heard, Arizona has a first-year head coach in Tommy Lloyd right now. You know who's number 9 in field goal percentage defense? The Texas Tech Red Raiders. Not sure if you heard, they have a new first-year head coach. His name's Mark Adams. He's awesome. You know who's number 10 in field goal percentage defense in college basketball right now? Oh, just a guy named Mike effing Woodson in the Indiana Hoosiers. So 3 of the top 10 teams in field goal percentage defense are under first-year head coaches, and Carolina ranks 220th nationally. They can't stop anybody. And so I bring it up because I want to go back to the original point that Jay Billis said. Jay Billis, in his Jay Billis voice, well, obviously Carolina's a tournament team. Really, Jay? We really sure about that? Because let's break down that resume, because I don't think Carolina's a tournament team. With the loss to Duke, Carolina falls to 16-7 overall. Doesn't sound terrible. It could be worse. You could be, I don't know, whoever. Hate to say it, Louisville. You could be Louisville. You could be Maryland. You could be Oregon State. You could be worse than 16-7. Here's the problem, though. Let's dig a little deeper into that 16-7 resume for North Carolina, also 8-4 in the ACC. Currently, North Carolina has 16 wins, 7 losses. Their best win is over a Michigan team that is currently 11-9. Currently not projected to make the NCAA tournament in most bracketologies. I didn't look up all of them, but most bracketologies, Michigan is not an NCAA tournament team. Beyond that, that is their best win, which you know what it means? Right now, they don't have a single win over a team currently projected into the NCAA tournament. Now, for fun, let's look at the losses. Here are North Carolina's losses in year 1 under Hubert Davis. Lost by 9 to Purdue. Okay, that's not that bad. Purdue's a really good team. Lost by 17 to Tennessee. Oh, that's not so good, but it's okay. Anything could happen against Tennessee. The Falls, Zakai Ziegler, anything could happen. Then they lost to 29. They lost by 29 to Kentucky. Well, it's Kentucky. Oscar Tshiebwe might be the National Player of the Year. We're going to talk about Kentucky in a minute. They might be the best team in the country. But then they lost by 28 to Miami. Ugh, that's not good. Then they lost by 18 to Wake. Oh, that's not good. Then they lost to 20 by Duke. So you look at their games, and I talked about this a few weeks ago with Carolina. They now have 7 losses. 6 of them are by 15-plus points. That's not going to get the job done. And so you look at the totality of their resume right now. The totality of their resume is pretty straightforward. 16-7, 0 good wins. How about this? 0-7 against quad 1 opponents. People are you're dusting off your college basketball brain. What is a quad 1 opponent again? A quad 1 opponent, the NCAA breaks down opponents into 4 different quads, and you get certain credit depending on who you beat and where you beat them, home, road, neutral. Quad 1 wins are the best wins that you can possibly have. North Carolina is now 0-7 in Quad 1 games. And here's the crazy part. Because the ACC stinks, guess what? They've only got 3 more Quad 1 games on their entire schedule for the rest of the year. Now, admittedly, they still have the ACC tournament, could pick up maybe a win or 2 there. But the point that I'm trying to make is this. It's crazy, but we only have 4 weeks left in the regular season of college basketball. And I bring that up because we only have 4 weeks left in the regular season of college basketball. And North Carolina is 16-7 with a grand total of 0 good wins and essentially only 3 more chances to even pick up a Quad 1 win unless something happens at the ACC tournament. So they've only got 8 games left in the regular season and very few chances to even pick up quality wins. And so to finish this point and to move on to the rest of the weekend, what that tells me is this. Duke, Carolina, that was fun, that was this, that was that. But the bottom line is pretty straightforward. If the NCAA tournament started today, I don't care what Jay Billis says, North Carolina would not be an NCAA tournament team. And I should mention, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. Credit Gary Parrish. I saw him. I think he tweeted it out or wrote it or something. But he said that to date, since the NCAA implemented the quad system about 3-4 years ago, there has never been a team that has gotten an at-large bid with 0 Quad 1 wins on their resume. So essentially, if the tournament started today, North Carolina probably wouldn't be in, and North Carolina has to start winning the games that matter really quick, or they're going to be left out of the tournament. Should Hubert Davis have been hired as the coach? I talked about that a few weeks ago. I will save that rant again for another time. But they're not playing defense. They don't seem to care very much about each other, and this team has 0 good wins after an embarrassing loss against Duke.